Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor, and our special guest, non-expert James, the Science Toolboy.
Hello.
As always, we're wearing togas, our kylixes are full, it's nice and sunny and we're inside, and today we're going to look up to the build-up and preparation for the Battle of Actium.
So, previously on Antony and Cleopatra, the last time we checked in with them both was at the time when the donations of Alexandria were happening. So this was where Antony gave Cleopatra large parts of the Eastern Empire as a gift, so Syria, Cyprus and other areas as well.
This is while he's still married to Octavia though.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about her.
Yeah, she gets nothing.
So did Antony by the sounds of it.
As well as giving her land though, they also declared that Caesarion is the rightful heir to Caesar, making Octavian illegitimate, and again, not making him happy. He's effectively splitting the Roman Empire into two, and this ultimately, we said, was the final straw Octavian needed to declare war. But, as we all know, things don't just happen for one reason, it's not the only cause. So if we just quickly remind ourselves of these underlying causes that have led to this point, first thing we should point out is obviously the ambition of Octavian and Antony. Both these men, in the vacuum that followed Caesar's death, saw an ideal opportunity to really push their influence and get more. Add into this, we've got Octavian's constant hustling and setting endless traps for Mark Antony and anyone who doesn't like him, or anyone he doesn't like either. We've got Cleopatra's image in Rome, which has not helped anyone. It didn't help Caesar. It's certainly not helped Mark Antony. Remember, the Romans massively looked down on Cleopatra as being this dodgy Eastern queen, certainly not the ideal Roman woman that they were hoping for. And with that then comes a lot of slander, propaganda and accusation from all sides.
So the other things as well are obviously the way that he treated Octavia, which was not particularly great.
No, but I think I said before, like, her brother did throw her into that situation.
Yeah.
To be treated poorly
we should
purpose.
point out it's Antony's treatment of Octavian, not Octavian. Well, actually, Octavian was a bit of a douche towards his sister.
He was, but I mean, you know, he did marry her, so he should have thought, she's already been treated like poo, maybe I won't treat her even worse.
Again, we should clarify, it's Antony who married Octavia.
Not all that business again.
It's not the brother-husband thing again.
No. The other things as well that come out from the donations of Alexandria, and also the reading of his will as well, which we'll talk about more in a bit, was that it said that he was going to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome. Exactly, not good. That Caesarian, I'm thinking of a Caesar salad. Caesarion was officially anointed as successor and heir to Caesar. So that's going to really annoy Octavian because he's basically being pushed off the top spot. And it was seen as Antony's kind of final betrayal. And showing as well that Cleopatra kind of got a talent into him, that she's got that kind of final grip on him. But the main thing really is that he wants to be buried in Alexandria and
no.
Yeah, and have his funeral there and everything, and that is really, really not a good idea.
I guess I know the answer to this before I ask it. Did he have the authority to do any of this? As a triumvirate?
He thought he did.
Yeah.
Octavian thought otherwise.
Well,
no one asked Lepidus.
There isn't really anyone to stop him doing it. It's just a really stupid thing to do. It's the equivalent, I suppose, of if you are a Man United supporter and if all of your family are a Man United supporters, and then you decide that when you die you want to be buried at a City's football pitch. It's that kind of the equivalent. It's just, you just don't do it. It's just really bad.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. And ultimately, this does not go well. But unfortunately, it doesn't just stop there. In the year that builds up to the war, after the donations of Alexandria, there's an awful lot of tit-for-tat bickering.
So we're going to have a read through Plutarch, Life of Mark Antony 55. So this is what it says. It says, Octavian reported all this to the Senate and was making accusations against Antony before the people, hoping to stir up the people of Rome against Antony. Antony too kept sending counter-accusations against Octavian. The most important of these charges were that first of all he took over Sicily from Sextus Pompey, but had not shared any part of the island with him. Secondly, Antony claimed that he had kept for his own use the ships he had been lent by Antony for the war. Also, Antony said after removing his colleague Lepidus and humiliating him, he had held on to the army, the territory and the money, which had belonged to Lepidus.
Who cares?
Exactly. Finally, that he'd been given nearly all the land in Italy, he'd given all of the land in Italy to his soldiers, leaving nothing for the soldiers of Antony. Now, kind of Octavian's rebuttal to this, because at this point Antony's fighting his own battle against Parthia, is, well, why do you need land off me? Because when you've been successful in your fight, they can have all the land that you win and you take from Parthia and Media and like Armenia and that area, which is fair enough, I think.
Is it just because it's Italian land he feels he has some ownership on it? Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, it is pretty petty as well. There's lots of, he didn't share his island with me.
It does sound very kind of sibling squabbling.
Yeah.
He said this, well, he said that first.
Yeah.
And it is. It absolutely is. But, I mean, at this point, the key thing is there's no going back. They're simply trying to find reasons to blame each other. So whoever declares war first has got legitimate reasons because he didn't share his island, he touched me.
Well, Antony says that Octavian is kind of low-born, which is pretty rich, I think, coming from him. He says that he's low-born, so that's one of the digs that he kind of puts forward to him, and also that he's a bit weak, and that when it was the Battle of Philippi, he brings out the fact that he hid in, you know, a marsh or something, swamp, and he didn't fight. Whereas Octavian is basically just bashing Antony because he's saying that he's a drunk, he's a hoe, he's socially doesn't care about anyone but himself, as well as having his relationship
don't hold back.
with Cleopatra too. So yeah, it's like two schoolgirls like bickering over Facebook.
It is nice that things don't really change. I remember when I was younger, I used to think that politicians were these grandiose, like eloquent people.
Nope.
And then the first time I watched the House of Commons, like they're just slagging each other off. Things clearly haven't moved on in 2,000 years.
It's my island.
Exactly.
It does sound like you two are kind of taking sides in this.
I don't know what you mean.
What, you're constant Octavian? Yeah, I love him so much, he's so clever.
Just because he's the better prospect.
You can't see this, but Helen is actually wearing a t-shirt saying Octavian forever.
And the 4's a Roman numeral.
I've got a lot of
little
time.
flag.
Got a lot of time on my hands at the moment, so I've made it myself. It's got rhinestones on it and everything.
Yeah, she actually does, and yeah, she does that kind of thing.
I mean, it is, you know, hindsight's 20/20. It's all right backing the person you know is going to win.
But even on paper, I think he looks like he is the stronger candidate. He's got the support of the Senate. He's got the support of the people. So he's got the kind of support of a lot of wealthy benefactors as well. Shut up, James.
Waving the flag.
She's literally waving the flag.
So he's got the support of people like that. He's
Helen
also
Octavian.
got really, really good strategy in place as well, which obviously, yes, hindsight, but you can see...
And his legs.
Exactly.
It's all about the legs.
You can see that he knows kind of exactly what he's going to do, how he's going to run it, and this kind of thing. So, yeah,
So,
it's better.
in case you zoned out on that or just missed that subtle bit from Helen, clearly Helen's picked her side, so while we're discussing the actions each side make, Helen is going to obviously gush lengthily about Octavian, and I'll discuss what Antony does. Bring it on, Taylor.
You know you're going down, in every sense.
So it all sounds like it's kicking off a bit, but Octavian's just nicked half of Antony's ships, hasn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he has. And yeah, he didn't give them back. And clearly Antony's got little hope now of asking Octavian for his ships back. Octavian, can I have my ships back? Why? Not to fight you at all.
But to be fair, he's got Cleopatra, hasn't he? So he can just, which is what he does, he can just use Cleopatra's fleet instead.
But we're told, however, Antony does hold on to some of his ships himself.
Yeah.
Smart lad.
That's what I'm thinking through this.
If we got he had them.
He shouldn't have lent them out to anyone if he was that worried about not getting them back.
Well, if you can't trust Octavian, who can you trust?
If he couldn't tell by now
Literally
that he was
anyone.
being
Lepidus.
plagued, that he was being plagued, well, I probably thought he was being plagued, but he was being played by Octavian, then that's his fault for being too stupid.
He never got those troops that Octavian said he was going to send him, did he?
The email was sent, it just went straight into his inbox.
Don't trust him.
But yes, Antony's in this position now where he has to bolster his forces using Cleopatra's help, and it's handy that she's Queen of Egypt and has some stuff. And we've got another dramatic reading now.
So this is from Mark Antony, Plutarch 56. So it says his fleet was being collected there. There were 800 warships with merchant vessels. Of these, Cleopatra provided 200 warships, as well as 20,000 talents and supplies for the whole army during the war. So she's basically bankrolling his military campaign.
What's a talent?
A talent?
It's a form of currency.
Yeah, it's like a large value. It's a large nomination of cash.
Bear
basically.
dollar.
It's bear dollar. Yeah, she brings the money.
She's got the luck. She's got the ship. She's got the cash.
Not according to the Romans. We're always slagging her off.
Because she didn't give them any money. That's why. And while we're on the subject of Cleopatra, I mean, she's the focus of the whole depth study. Interesting, in the very next line, Plutarch again throws in another proper dig at Cleopatra.
So it says, Cleopatra, however, was afraid that Octavian would again bring an end to the disagreements between the two men, and bribed Cneidius with a great deal of money to put her case to Antony. He was to say that it was not fair to drive away from the war a woman who had contributed so much money and supplies, nor was it right for Antony to demoralise the Egyptians, who were a large part of his fleet.
So there again, Plutarch, and most likely his pro-Augustan sources, the ones he researched, they're clearly pointing to Cleopatra as the reason behind this war. I mean, in that bit, she's kicking off that she's not going to get any of the scrapping going on. She wants to be there at the front. He's also poisoning her in direct opposition to Octavian, where he says the worried Octavian might calm everything down and calm Antony down and calm Octavian down, which Cleopatra doesn't want. She's seen as bribing middlemen and to get what she wants. So this whole bit there is a good example of Plutarch's reliability issues in terms of the sources he studies. Everyone's out to get Cleopatra, and he can't necessarily, try as he might, he can't really get a good balanced view of her.
It supports the idea, doesn't it, that she's a corrupt queen because she's Egyptian. She's
and
not Roman.
She's the
so
corrupter
she's
as well.
Corrupt.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one in the pub car park going, go on, hit him, I want to hit him as well.
Were bribes not the done thing?
They're generally frowned upon, aren't they?
Well, I know, but or they were just gifts they gave each other.
They may have been gifts, but either way it's been written up as a bribe to make it seem even more manipulative, cunning and devious.
So Antony's like all over his war prep then?
Well, you'd think so, but it's Antony, so don't ask me, let's ask Plutarch.
So this is what Plutarch says, so it's the same passage just a bit further down. So it says, and they sailed to Samos with the entire fleet and enjoyed themselves in pleasures. Nice way to describe it. All the kings, rulers, tetrarchs, peoples and cities between Syria and the Meatic Lake, Armenia, Illyria, sorry, I've not said these words for a while, had been ordered to send or bring their preparations for the war to Samos. So it's basically inviting them all for a massive knees up, just having a party. In the same way, all the dramatic artists were ordered to go there too. So the rest of the world was in a state of fear and anxiety about the coming war, while this one island was filled with the sound of music and flutes for many days. Theatres were filled up and choirs competed. Every city also sent an ox for the sacrifice. The kings with Antony competed with one another in the extravagance of their gifts and entertainments.
So he's having a massive party then?
Yeah, he's having a massive party. So I mean, how would you feel?
No. Obviously, if you're going to go to war, what do you need? Dramatic artists.
Yes, exactly.
Flute players and lyres.
Because there's nothing like, killing someone if you can hear some nice harp music in the background. It makes it all so much better. But you can imagine, can't you, if you're a Roman back at home and you're like, whoa, there's a war that's going to start kicking off, and you're there getting drunk as a skunk with all your pals, you wouldn't be very happy, would you? Can you imagine what kind of state he's going to be in for leading his army?
They're pointing the ship
I
the
mean,
wrong
it's
way.
like a teacher turning up after they've drank about 3 bottles of gin and being expected to teach a
That
lesson.
that
He's
would
got
never
to,
happen.
like, send, like lead an army into battle.
Is
It's
this?
ridiculous.
I'm continuing this pro-Antony stance I've kind of backed myself into. Is this in any way a strategy to raise morale, or is it just he's Antony and he wants a massive do?
It's not just raising morale. Don't forget, like we said earlier, Antony's given most of his navy to Octavian, so he obviously needs to get some more resources from somewhere. So all of these kings that are coming, they're bringing with them armies. So he's courting other kings to try and back his army, and he's doing it in the only way Antony knows how. Come on, lads, come for the sesh and bring your navy with
He's
you.
kind of biding his time, isn't he, as well? Because, like you say, he needs to increase kind of his army and things. So he needs to have a little bit longer to get himself prepared.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like appeasement.
Right. Okay. Who are all these
Kings.
kings?
Various kings that
But are they like kind of Egypt to these like
client kings, Eastern
yeah.
Empire. Yeah, he's
Okay.
basically enticing everyone to come and join him, having a party
Party.
to encourage them. Just make sure you bring your army as well. But there's more. Back to Plutarch.
So Plutarch says, after the entertainments, Antony gave the city of Priene to the dramatic artists for their home. He then sailed to Athens and got involved in more games and entertainments. Cleopatra was jealous of the honours which the city had given to Octavia, for Octavia had been much loved by the Athenians. Therefore, Cleopatra gave the people extravagant gifts to win their support. So she's trying to buy people off, basically.
I'm getting so stressed. They do realise there's a war about to happen, don't they?
Yep. But like we said, I mean, he's preparing for war just in a very
Antony way.
This is like the equivalent, if we're being typical, of now we're not supposed to have social gatherings, because if we're listening to this in the future, we're in lockdown. This is the equivalent of whilst we're in lockdown, someone deciding that they're going to run Glastonbury Festival, right? And just give everyone free booze. Nowhere to sleep, apart from basically, in a canvas shelter with each other, and just see what happens.
He really is a creature of habit, isn't
He
he?
is.
Just party, party, party.
He's an idiot.
well. All right, Octavian.
Is he still dressing up as Dionysus for all
Yes.
Yes,
this?
sporadically.
Yeah, so throughout a lot of this, he's dressing up as Dionysus, he's getting other people to dress up as things to do with Dionysus as well.
Just a big jug of wine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're lucky if you get to be the jug of wine guy. But either way, Antony being Antony and doing his Antony thing, somehow in the midst of this world's longest pub crawl,
Just an epic sesh.
pan-Aegean sesh. Either way, between the two of them, he and Cleopatra amassed a force of 500 ships, 100,000 soldiers, and 12,000 cavalry. Now, we should point out, if you are following the OCR Bloomsbury textbook, where it discusses Antony's armies, there is a slight typo, and it suggests Antony had 500,000 ships. He did not have 500,000 ships. That would be silly.
But even though he's not got that many ships, and he has just got the 500, we've got to
Just 500.
Is that all?
We've got to think about the sources and whether we actually believe what they're saying entirely, because there is this idea that they're making Antony's army seem bigger than it was, because on paper it's certainly bigger than Octavian's, so that it makes the outcome look more favourable on Octavian.
Okay.
Because it's making Antony and Cleopatra look like a
Ferocious.
more ferocious
Yeah.
and better enemy. So
But-
obviously they must be better.
So just bigging up Octavian.
Yeah, it's kind of an underhand way of making Octavian look better.
Yeah. Alternatively, we could also think he's got 500 ships, but everyone's too wasted to steer in the right
Exactly.
direction.
So Antony's just on lads' night out, isn't he? For forever, but
Pretty much.
particularly while prepping for war.
Yeah.
What's Octavian up to? Is he just like reading some books and being a dweeb somewhere?
All I'm going to say is, shut your face. He's bringing
Oh, the flag's
brains.
out.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's bringing brains, brawn, and also some strategic knowledge as well.
Presumably not his brawn.
Well, it doesn't have to be, does it? It doesn't have to be. You think about a good, gangster film or whatever, you always have the brains and you always have the muscles behind.
And
That's
the
what he's
stupid
doing.
drunk guy in the corner.
Doesn't have to, yeah. The one side that's got the person that's just completely drunk all the time doesn't necessarily do that well, do they? So I think that, yeah, he's got everything that he needs to be able to kick some Egyptian ass.
Including Antony's navy that he
Yeah,
nicked.
exactly.
Did they any time look negatively on him in flat? It was like, oh, he's so clever, he nicked his ships.
I don't think they were really that bothered because they'd taken them off someone who was going to use them along with his Egyptian kind of consort, so they weren't that fussed really.
Okay.
And Antony seems that spanned all the time. He'd probably have lost him anyway, wouldn't he? Bet or not. Lose him in a bet.
Just sail over there, lads.
There is kind of things that go backwards and forwards between Antony and Octavian, where Antony basically says that he'll give up certain things if Octavian kind of gives up certain things as well. And he just never hears anything back, and he never hears anything back from the Senate either. So it's pretty clear that...
Oh, is he getting ghosted?
He's literally
he's
being ghosted.
Everyone's just ignoring him. No one wants to know. So if we think about Octavian, before dealing with Antony, Octavian had his own problems to deal with. So it's not all plain sailing for Octavian.
He just had to read some more books and write some poetry or some dweeby things like that.
He's got to sort some things out. So these riots in Italy about the taxes that he's collecting. So funnily enough, just as now, things do not change. And people didn't want to pay more taxes to pay for an upcoming war, which is basically just a slanging match between these two men about who was going to take over control. So they didn't quite like that. So it's mentioned in a little bit more detail in Plutarch.
This is Plutarch, Life of Mark Antony, 58, and it says, he needed a number of things first. People were unhappy about the taxes he had collected. Citizens had been forced to pay a quarter of their income, and the freedmen had paid 1/8 of their property. Both groups had complained, and there had been riots throughout Italy.
So Octavian dealt with this before going to war, which also gave him more time to spend said tax money on preparing his forces.
So he was getting this money? Though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the sources don't say how he dealt with these riots.
I imagine very fairly and with minimal loss of life.
Well, one of the accusations that is levelled at Octavian by Antony is that he is cruel and that he's quite brutal. And we know that in the prescriptions he basically gets rid of most of the people that are against him. And this starts quite early, so we can possibly suggest.
So going back to your
this
gangster
is
analogy,
the start of.
one way or another he gets his money.
Yeah, so he's the smart one that sat in the Italian restaurant giving out the orders, and then he's got some.
He sends the goons out.
Yeah, he sends the goons out
We'll
to go
stab
and do
you
his
for his
bidding.
money.
That's it. So we're going to think about defectors now. So Plutarch actually suggests that Octavian delaying the war was Antony's biggest downfall. So it allowed Octavian more time to weaken Antony. And there's quite a few things that he does. So one of the major things that he does is he publicly reads out Antony's will to the Senate. So we've got another reading from Plutarch.
Again, it's Plutarch 58, Mark Antony 58, and it says, therefore he, Octavian, went and took it, the will, and first of all he read the content alone by himself. He marked out the parts which were most likely to damage Antony. Next he called a meeting of the Senate and read it aloud to them, the fact that most senators thought it was a shameful thing to do.
How did he get hold of his will?
Well, this apparently, it was people that had been on Antony's side who then kind of changed sides, and they said that they would go and get it because they knew where it was. But it's
An official will like that's also held in Rome by the Vestal Virgins.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Octavian had to
Get it.
get it from some virgins.
But then you could say that maybe that's something that kind of cast doubt on the reliability of it being an official document, of being the true document that's actually being read. Maybe this was just another propaganda stunt by Octavian.
And also
to
he's
try and
cherry
stir up
picked the
trouble.
worst bits.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty damning. Even if he'd have read it all from start to finish, it wouldn't have been like, oh, well, parts of it are okay, so he's fine, we'll let him off. He's still doing things that are pretty stupid that are going to kind of get a response. So things like being buried in Alexandria, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like
Scandal.
we've already used the football analogy. So that's too scandalous for a lot of the Senate to take, because it's basically Antony saying that he doesn't want to be Roman anymore and that he wants to be Egyptian, and that is just too much for them to handle, because they're proud Romans.
Okay.
They're very patriotic. They think that they're the best thing since sliced bread. So why would you want to be a dirty Egyptian as far as they're
If you could
concerned?
be a glorious Roman.
Exactly. So they don't understand it. So that's really, really bad. And then also you've got other kind of things as well that are going on. So he publicly accuses Antony and Cleopatra of kind of various misdeeds, and says that he's been doing things that he shouldn't have been doing. So there's something here that's taken from some wider reading, and it says that he wanted to prove his case against Antony. But before he could do that, because most of the Senate were quite smart, they decided that they were going to leave Rome, which probably isn't that much of a shock, is it? They're already starting to realise what's going to happen. So he uses this as an opportunity to show that he's actually the generous one, and he says, right, well, that's fine. If you don't want to support me, just go. I'm not going to do anything. The rest of you can go and you can leave.
Have they not been paying attention?
Exactly. So the sources now kind of suggest that most of the senators do, funnily enough, start to actually go over to Octavian's side. And then the other thing that we've not mentioned yet is the fact that Antony is now divorced Octavia, and that's another massive no-no.
Oh, I was really rooting for those two.
Yeah, so if people already were thinking, oh, you know, no, we quite like Antony, it's fine. I mean, that is like the final nail in the coffin. It's like, no, we're not going to support you anymore. We're going to start supporting Octavian instead.
So is that like a double, like, nail in the coffin for him? Because he's essentially renounced Rome with his will, and also he said Octavia was like seen as the quintessential Roman woman.
Yeah.
And
Now
he's
he-
binned her off.
Now he's
Yeah.
not with her. Is it just like, yeah, no Rome ties at all at the moment?
And it's just kind of the support of the Senate is switching kind of more and more in favour of Octavian all the way through. Right at the very beginning of everything happening, Antony had already offered to the Senate that he would kind of give up his triumphal powers if Octavian promised to do the same. That's what I was talking about before. And the Senate just didn't respond. So Antony's being kind of frozen out more and more,
Okay.
basically.
You said defectors at the beginning. I assume no one's going from Octavian to Antony at this point.
No.
No, it's pretty much the other way around. So we've got another reading from Plutarch.
So this is where Octavian actually gets others, important Romans, to also start accusing Antony and Cleopatra of ridiculous things. And this one, in Plutarch, it says, Calvisius, a friend of Octavian, brought against Antony the same charges concerning Cleopatra. He had given her the libraries from Pergamum, which contained 200,000 books, and at a feast with many people present, he had stood up and rubbed her feet.
Okay.
High Roman scandal there.
Interesting. More books.
More books, and
Why-
now feet.
Why would Dweeby Octavian allow books to leave his presence?
He'd already read them.
Okay.
They were the ones with drawings in. We didn't want them anymore. So the other thing as well is that it gives Antony and Cleopatra more time to annoy and isolate their allies, many of which kind of flock over to Octavian. So that's what we were just saying then.
Yeah, the sesh is good, but after a while, Antony starts winding people up, and
So even the massive party doesn't make people happy enough.
people have spotted that there's a war coming. And whose side do you want to be on? The side that's actually preparing, or the side that's hoping it'll go away?
They've also ultimately started to realise that if Octavian is the one that is based in Rome, and he has got men to fight for him, then Antony's based in Egypt. It's probably more likely that Octavian's going to win, and if he does win, they're going to be dealt with pretty harshly if they've decided to follow Antony.
At this point, does Antony
Cleopatra.
still have some like loyal Roman soldiers, or is it just Egyptians?
No, he
he's
does.
got?
He does have some. He does have some, but as the fighting starts, that
Doesn't-
starts
yeah.
to change.
Okay.
It's more like the kind of the people of means and the people
Yeah,
of power are
yeah.
starting to definitely distanced themselves from it. Antony? Who? No, never heard of him before.
No.
There's this ongoing thing between them both that they're both trying to put across that the other one is trying to destroy the Republic. Now, ultimately, if that's your tagline, you've got someone that's working with the Senate from a noble family who's still in Rome and he's very much a Roman, living a simple life, seen as a man of the people.
Fixing things as well.
Yeah, and then you've got this other person that's living it up in Egypt, getting completely drunk all the time, who's not in Rome and hasn't got the support of the Senate.
And basically renounced their citizenship.
Who's the one that's doing more damage to Republican ideals? It's not Octavian, is it? It's the one that's having it off with the Queen whilst he should be married to a Roman. So, Octavian also has a secret weapon.
Well, like a Death Star or something.
Yeah, he's got one of them. So, although Octavian was arguably a keen strategist and general, he wasn't taking any chances. So he's got this kind of secret weapon lined up. It's not a Death Star, James. Have a more sensible guess.
I don't know.
It's clearly not a Death Star. So he's got a really, really good naval commander who is called Marcus Agrippa. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit more about him in the next episode. But Octavian manages to muster 250 ships, about 80,000 infantry and 12,000 cavalry.
That's less than Antony has, though, isn't it?
It is, but like we've said before, we're not sure whether the numbers are completely accurate.
Been fluffed a bit.
Yeah, and also Marcus Agrippa is someone who is an excellent military commander. He's basically the person that just takes complete charge of Octavian's forces. So Octavian trusts him completely.
Aren't the old school friends?
They are.
It's like his mate from uni that
Yeah, they're
okay.
brought home for the weekend.
They're
like
old
new from
friends.
halls or something like that.
Yeah, they're old friends. You could also say as well, even though his army isn't necessarily as big, his army is predominantly made up of Romans. Now, if you think about it, they've really got more to fight for. They've certainly got more to lose, really. So, Antony's army is made up of Egyptians. It's made up of various troops that he's been able to source from all different areas. They're literally probably fighting for cash, whereas Octavian's army are fighting for the glory of Rome.
Okay.
So they've kind of got more of an emotional vested interest in what they're fighting for. So you could say that kind of passion makes up for a lack of numbers.
Okay.
There's also
If they've got really good guidance as well.
There's also the practicality that being Roman soldiers, they will have been better armed, better trained. They all follow the same instructions. They all know the same battle plans. You don't have to translate to different languages.
Yeah, I've kind of heard about Roman soldiers like online, like in the phalanx. Were they just as good at sea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The people Octavian brings won't be like the leftovers. These are the guys. These are the.
You're saying this Agrippa guy is like the bee's knees of like military strategy. I know. He said a while ago his war in the East didn't go very well. Is Antony like as good a strategist, or is he just a bit of a blunt instrument? Or is he too tanked up at this point to do anything?
Hasn't really got that much experience in terms of naval fighting.
No.
Antony's much more of an infantry soldier. So most of the fighting that he's done has been on land. This is a very different type of battle, and if you look at kind of where it actually happened in Actium, it wasn't necessarily a geographically very easy place to actually have a battle in. So that kind of naval expertise were paramount to being successful. So this is why Agrippa is such a benefit for Octavian, because he really knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Antony hasn't really got an equivalent on his side.
Well, I was about to ask, like, Octavian's basically delegated this. Is Antony just so in love with himself that he's not willing to do that, or does he just have no one to delegate to?
He's got Cleopatra.
He's got
But
Cleopatra.
we'll get onto the details of the battle next time, because it's a big deal. But the other thing to bear in mind with Antony is when he was at his most famous with the army, his height of military success, it was with Caesar.
Yeah.
So Caesar did all the grafting, all the planning, and Antony just went, yeah, what he said. To some extent. That's a very blunt way of looking at it.
Yeah, but Antony is more than muscle as opposed to the person that can really think about how they're going to attack
We-
and how
we-
they're going to set things
We've
out.
seen he's not a great thinker.
Exactly, and you need that to lead an army effectively.
Okay.
And so off they go. So by 31 BC, Augustus and Agrippa set sail from Rome off to go and throw down with Antony and Cleopatra.
Who was actually better prepared then, if we look at it objectively?
Ooh.
Well, if we-
Objectively, Helen.
yeah, I'll try.
Put the
So-
flag down.
So if we think about Octavian first, there are some kind of key strengths. So he's got a better army. We've already said that they're more cohesive, they're more well trained. They're fighting for something which they believe in a little bit more. It's something which is more important to them. He's a really good military strategist as well, in how he's going to organise his army and how he's going to fight. And in with that, he's got Agrippa to help him actually lead his naval battle and decide how that's going to work. He also has kind of delayed the battle as well. So Antony's been waiting for quite a long time, and that kind of
You know what
starts
he's been
to
doing while he was
affect,
waiting?
it starts to affect morale. It starts to affect their kind of readiness to fight.
They're running
and
out
things
of
like that.
wine.
They're running out of some supplies. Also, he's got the support of the Senate. So this is Octavian. He's got the support of the Senate. So the ones that are left that haven't ran away because they're too frightened about what's happening have decided that they're going to support Octavian. And obviously the Senate are the people with the money. So they're obviously able to bankroll Octavian's military campaign as well.
Plus these taxes he's been
So
collecting.
yeah, he's got that political clout, but he's also got a lot of the people back in Rome supporting him. So the mood for him to win, I would say, is a lot stronger than that for Antony, because by this point Antony is seen as just fighting for him and Cleopatra and the benefit of themselves and their family, really to kind of bolster Cleopatra's position and power, the power of Egypt. They're not really fighting for Rome. I think that's probably how most people would have seen it, whereas Octavian is fighting to make Rome
Great again.
strong. Yeah, and I was going to say kind of keep Rome for the Romans. Is basically fighting to keep Egypt out and keep them inferior, which is where they should be according to them, instead of being on
Good
an
job you
equal
clarified
footing.
that.
So yeah, so I would say that he's definitely in the stronger position.
On Antony's side, I mean, you've got to remember, both Antony and Cleopatra, in their own rights, are military leaders of some skill. Antony's had all his experience under Caesar in the Gallic campaigns. He's fought the Parthians. He's respected and well known as a soldier. He knows what he's doing. Cleopatra herself, she's fought numerous civil wars against her brothers and husbands and her own dad. We're told she's an able naval commander as well, so she knows what she's doing. They've got, obviously, the bigger army, not 500,000 ships. But
it says so in the book.
Not all books are wrong.
Don't believe everything you read.
But I mean, if you look at the Navy, and if it is going to be a naval engagement, they have double the amount of ships that Octavian can bring. They've got a large amount of infantry, which Mark Antony is very, very good at leading. They don't necessarily have the backing of the Senate, but they have the wealth of Egypt at their disposal, and also the support and backing of these various different Eastern kings, who with them will also bring their own.
Oh, so he
backing.
kept them on side.
He kept a lot of them on side.
Okay.
It was more the kind of Romans who did one, because these Eastern kings will also be tied up in this adventure of splitting the Roman Empire, and they will benefit from throwing off the shackles of Roman rule. So, yeah, it's not a clear-cut, dead easy win for Octavian. There are strengths to both sides.
The issue that I would say, though, if you predominantly, a lot of your support is coming from other kings, ultimately when you do start fighting, if it starts to go the other way,
Yeah, if you're buying in the
then
help,
they're more likely to basically bin you off and go and switch sides to save their own skin.
So if this is going to be a naval battle and like not all Antony's ships are Roman, who's got the better ships? Is it like the Egyptian ships
the
or the
Roman ships were distinctly better at this point than the Egyptian ships. When we do the battle properly, we'll find some nice pictures of ships for you.
Yeah.
Nice boats. But again, if you look at the amount of soldiers and troops that they take with them at this point, neither side has decided how they're going to fight. So you don't take 80,000 infantry and 12,000 cavalry if you're going to throw down in the sea. They're not riding on seahorses into battle. But if we look on balance, though, Antony's got the numbers, Octavian's got the skill.
The skill, yeah,
The skill
I would say
and the
so, and the
support.
backing.
So it'll be an interesting fight. So there you have it, the build-up and preparation for the Battle of Actium. Thank you for listening. We hope it's been useful. Leave us a comment below. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.